Hi guys and welcome to the demo of Module 3, Create a Smart Contract. In this demo we're going to be an investor who wants to buy some altcoins. To do so, we're going to set up an Ethereum wallet on MyEtherWallet, the website that I showed you in the first tutorial of this module, and also on this GitHub page where we got our MyEtherWallet zip folder. So we're going to set up this wallet. We'll also have Ganache opened to interact with the blockchain because each time we sign a transaction, well, the transaction will be added to a block and we will see that happening in real time in Ganache. So we'll do all this. And so now the first step that we're going to do is open Ganache. And therefore, I prepared everything here, and especially I prepared my list of programs to find Ganache. So open Ganache first. Ganache is opening right now. And here we go. Welcome to Ganache. So I'm going to enlarge this so that we can all see very well. And there we go. So what we're going to do in Ganache is pretty simple. We'll choose one of these addresses. Each row here corresponds to an address to which you can connect, and you have a virtual balance of 100 Ether, and you'll see that each time we sign a transaction or mine a block, we'll spend a very little amount of Ether. This is all virtual, of course. Right now we are on current block 0, meaning that we haven't mined any block. But first, the important information that we must see is this one, the address of the server where Ganache is found. So you recognize the local host here, 127.0.0.1, exactly like the one we used in Postman, but then we have a different port. It's no longer 5000 or 5001. We're going to use the port 7545. Okay, so remember this because we will enter it in MyEtherWallet, and then I can just walk you through the important stuff. Like here we have all the blocks. You'll see so far we have the Genesis block, but then each time we sign a transaction, the transaction will be added to a new block and we'll see the new blocks appear here. And then we have the transactions here. We'll be able to have all the details of the transactions we sign right here in this page. And also you have the logs, but we won't be needing this. Waiting for requests. Yes, the requests are coming. All right, so let's go back to our account. Let's choose an account. We're going to choose, well, anyone you want. I'm going to choose the first one. That is the account of index 0. All right, so that's your first step in Ganache, and now we're going to move on to MyEtherWallet. And to go to MyEtherWallet, well, we can either, go back to Google, because in the first tutorial of this module, well, we opened MyEtherWallet from our local computer using, remember, if you go to your blockchain A to Z folder and then module 3, create a smart contract, well, remember we went inside this folder and we double-clicked on this index.html, and that redirected us to MyEtherWallet. So you can do that again if you closed this page. And there we are in MyEtherWallet. Remember, we had all the warnings that were useful to check out, and now we're ready to start. And so the first step is right in the center of this page. We're going to create a new wallet, a new Ethereum wallet. And to do this, well, we're going to create a brand new one. And to create a brand new one, you go to this drop-down list here, and you're going to add a custom network node at the bottom of this dropdown. So just click on this, add custom network node. Let's do this, and here we go. So set up your custom node. So basically, we're just setting up a virtual custom node, and as you can already guess, here we're going to enter the URL of the local host, which is this, 127.0.0.1, and here, of course, we're going to enter the port of Ganache, which, remember, is 7545. Okay, so let's do this. First, we're going to enter a node name. So what can we call this? Well, whatever you want. You can call this by your name. You can call this by AddCoin ICO, whatever you want. Well, in fact, that's a pretty good idea. Let's call this AddCoin ICO. All right, AddCoin ICO. Then the URL is, so we can, if you want, go back to Ganache, then copy this without the port because the port is entered separately. So let's go back to MyEtherWallet and let's paste that right here in the URL. All right, so that's the right URL. And now the port, we can go back to Ganache to make sure we have the right one, 7545. Let's go back to MyEtherWallet and let's paste the port here. All right, and then you don't need to select this and Ether, of course. That's Ethereum, that's Ethereum Classic. We're going to use Ethereum. That's one of the best blockchain technologies. Let's go for it and let's save and use our network node, blockchain node. All right, you were successfully connected. Great start so far. Okay, so we are getting close to the ICO. Now we're gonna go here to contracts. You see at the top, contracts. Let's click on this, and there we go. We have the choice between interacting with our contract or deploy our contract. So according to you, what do we need to start with? Well, of course, we need to deploy the contract first, because so far we have just simply implemented the contract in Solidity, but we haven't deployed anything yet. So we're going to deploy it now, and to do this, well, we need to enter the bytecode here, which we will get in Solidity, and then you'll see this, the gas limit. The gas, by the way, is the unit of some money you spend. You'll see when we sign a transaction or complete some actions like buying some coins, basically any action that is in the smart contract. So this will automatically be populated, and then we'll select a private key. But first, let's start with the bytecode. And to get the bytecode, well, we need to go back to our program, Remix Solidity. That's our program. And to get the bytecode of this program, we need to go here to details. All right, and here we have all the details of our Solidity implementation. And as you can see, the bytecode is right here. So that's the bytecode basically, but we can copy it the efficient way by clicking on this. You see, copy value to clipboard. So just click on this, copy it, perfect. And now let's go back to my Ether wallet and let's paste the bytecode right here. But in this bytecode, we're only going to include the number inside the object, you know, from here, excluding the double quote, down to the very end of this very large string, which is the bytecode. So here I'm pressing Shift and I'm clicking to select all this, and that's exactly what we want. So I can just copy it, then select everything, and then delete everything, and then pasting it again. So that's exactly what you want. That's the bytecode we need here, and there you go, you have the gas limit automatically populated. Okay, perfect. Next step, how would you like to access your wallet? Well, of course, it's going to be with a private key. By the way, you can see you can use a JSON file to access your wallet. So if you're interested in doing that, you will have no problem understanding how it works, since you now know what a JSON file looks like. But here we're going to use a private key, and there we go. That's where we enter the private key. And so now, of course, the question is, where are we going to get our private key? Well, according to you, where is it going to be exactly? Is it going to be in my Ether wallet? Is it going to be in Solidity? Or is it going to be, well, I'm going to tell you now, it's going to be in Ganache. That's where we're going to get our key. And that's where we have to choose one of these addresses. So as I told you, I'm choosing this address, but feel free to choose any other one. And to get the key, well, I think it's pretty obvious now. The key is right here on the key. So click on Show Keys here, and there we go. Welcome to our private key. That's our private key. So let's copy this. Okay, so copy, done. And now let's go back to my Ether wallet to paste the private key. All right, now next step is just to click on unlock, because we now have everything. We have the bytecode, we have the private key, so we're ready to unlock the wallet that is now successfully decrypted. And not only we were ready to unlock this, but now we're ready to sign the transaction. Congratulations guys, you're about to sign your very first transaction through a smart contract. Let's do this. Let's click on sign transaction. And there we go. Now we're ready to deploy the contract. However, depending on the version of Ganache you're using, you might have a little issue here. If we go to Ganache, there we go. That's the issue I'm talking about. Ganache encountered an error. Help us fixing it by raising a GitHub issue. So no worries about this. The trick to solve this is just to relaunch Ganache. So just click on this relaunch button and Ganache will be relaunching. I'm expanding it again. Okay, and right now the only thing that you have to do is go back to my Ether wallet, and since actually the transaction is already signed, as we can see here with the bytecode, well, we are ready to deploy the contract, and once we do this, you'll see the transaction will appear on Ganache. All right, so let's do this. Let's deploy the contract. Warning, you're about to deploy a contract. Well, they really love warnings, but they're right. But yes, we're sure we want to make the transaction happen. And there we go. Your transaction has been broadcast to the network. And now, if we go back to Ganache, well, what do we see? What are the two things interesting to see here? Well, first, the TX count here was incremented to 1. That's our transaction. And second, we spent 2 cents of Ether to make this transaction happen. That is, to sign this transaction and to deploy the contract. So that was quite cheap. 1 Ether at the time I'm speaking is around $1,000, I think. And therefore 2 cents of Ether is like $20. Okay? So that's the price for deploying a contract. So that's very cheap because indeed it's much cheaper than the classic contracts, to sign a classic deal. And saving all these costs is one of the pillars of this Ethereum blockchain revolution. And now, by the way, there is another interesting thing to see. It's the current block that you can see was incremented to 1. And so now what we can check out is the blocks here. We see our new block, so that was just the block number 0, which we already had. And now we have the block 1, which contains our recent transaction that we signed right before deploying the contract. And if we click on this block, well, we have some more details. We have the gas used, the gas limit. We have the timestamp when it was mined, so exactly like what we implemented on Python in module 1 and 2. We have the block hash also. And if we click on this, well, we have even more data on the transaction. We have the sender address, the created contract address, which we'll use very soon, you'll see. And we see that this transaction was integrated in block number 1 that was mined to receive this transaction. And that's the bytecode of the transaction, as you can see here, transaction data. This can also be accessed by clicking on transactions. That's our transaction that we just signed. And again, if we click on this, we obtain the same data. All right, perfect. So pretty user-friendly. And so now what we're going to do is, since our contract, we have to realize that now our smart contract is integrated to the blockchain. Well, it is time to interact with it. We deployed it, and remember, in MyEtherWallet, we also have the option to interact with the contract, but we can only do that, of course, after deploying it. And now we can do this, and it's actually right now that the fun starts. So, speaking of the contract address, which I just mentioned, in Ganache, this one right here, created contract address, well, that's the first thing we were asked to input in MyEtherWallet when we want to interact with a contract. So in Ganache, let's just copy this address here, the created contract address, copy this contract address, and now let's go back to MyEtherWallet and paste it right here. All right, good. We have the contract address, and now we need to enter the ABI or JSON interface. So where are we going to get this? Well, this time it's not going to be in Ganache. It's going to be, of course, in Solidity Remix, because if you remember, just below the bytecode that we got to deploy the contract, now to interact with the contract, we need the ABI, which we can also copy by just clicking on this button. So that's what I just did. Now let's go back to MyEtherWallet and let's paste the ABI right here. And now we have nothing to select specifically in this ABI. We're ready to click on access. But before we do this, let me tell you a few words about this ABI. What is it exactly? Well, that's just basically the code that will explain to MyEtherWallet which actions can be run and how we can run them. So by actions, I mean, to buy some altcoins, to sell some altcoins, to have a look at the equity in dollars or altcoins. All this is coded in this ABI, and basically thanks to it, we'll be able to run these actions. Okay, so no need to go through this in further details. Now we're going to access this. So I just clicked on it, and now, breaking news, we are ready to buy some altcoins. As you can see, I have the select a function drop down, and what do we see? We see all our functions. Not only our functions, but also the variables, that can be updated, like the equity in USD, or this one which gives us the equity in altcoins. And we have these other actions that just run some actions, like buying some altcoins or selling some altcoins. All right, so now we can just play, do whatever you want. Let's start maybe by making sure that the maximum number of altcoins is 1 million. We are the very first investor to buy the altcoins, but let's check that out. I'm selecting this max altcoin, and there we go. We have indeed the 1 million altcoins available for us. So that's awesome. And now, since we know they're here, let's buy some altcoins. So I'm going to select the buy altcoins function, action. Now let's input, remember, the two arguments of our function. Let's have a look again of our function. So just closing the details here. Remember, the buy altcoins function had two arguments. First, the address of the investor, and second, the amount of money we want to spend to buy whatever amount of altcoins we want. So that's the first two arguments, and that's exactly what we have to input here. So let's start with the investor address. How to get this address? Well, of course, to get it, we need to go back to Ganache, and here is the address. Sender address, that's our address. Let's copy this. Or, by the way, this address is also the same in the account we chose, which is this one, this row of index 0. Well, here indeed you can find the exact same address. All right, so copying it again, it's the same anyway. And now let's go back to my Ether wallet. Let's input our address here, the investor address, and now let's choose which amount of altcoins we want to buy. Well, I want to buy, let's see, $10 of altcoins. That's not much, but that will already give me 10,000 altcoins, because remember, the rate USD to altcoin is 1,000, and therefore $10 of altcoin is worth 10,000 altcoins. So that's pretty cool. Let's get these altcoins now, and to get them, we need to click on right here. Warning again, there we go. They really love warnings. Gas limit, we're all good. That's way below the maximum limit. And now let's generate the transaction by just clicking on generate transaction. And all right, the transaction is signed. And to really make this happen, well, we need to click on yes, I am sure, make transaction. And there we go. The transaction has been broadcast to the network. Let's check this out on Ganache. And here it is. Transaction count was again incremented by 1. And we can see either in the blocks, it was integrated to block 2, a new transaction here, one transaction. We can click on the block if you want. And here is the transaction. We can click on this again to have even more details. Here we go. That's our address, the investor address. That's the contract address, which we entered before. And there we go. That's the transaction data. And if we go back to account, well, the balance hasn't changed. Okay? And again, you can use this shortcut by clicking directly on transactions to see the transaction. That's this one. The ones on the top are the most recent ones. All right. So there we go. That's our first transaction. Now let's go back to my Ether wallet and let's see what our equity has become. And to check that out, we need to click on the drop down button here. And well, first let's check out the equity in USD. All right. So again, we need to input the investor address because indeed in our equity in USD function, well, there is one argument, which is exactly this investor address. So let's get it back in Ganache. That's exactly this one. Let's copy this. And now let's go back to my Ether wallet. Here it is. Let's input the investor address and let's read to check out how much dollars we have in the platform, well, this interface where we invest some money to buy some altcoins. And indeed, since we just invested $10 to buy 10,000 altcoins, well, here, that's our equity in dollars. We have $10 invested. But now let's check out that the equity in altcoins is indeed 10,000 altcoins because $10 is 10,000 altcoins. So here I'm inputting again our address, the address of the investor. And when we click on read, well, indeed, we have 10,000 altcoins. Perfect. Our actions or functions seem to be working very well. Now let's check out the other tools. So just for fun, let's just check out the total altcoins bought. And indeed, since I'm the only investor playing with this ICO, well, of course, only 10,000 altcoins were bought, and that's the exact same altcoins I just bought. So that's all good. And now let's just for fun buy some more altcoins. Let's imagine the altcoins is becoming hype, and therefore now instead of investing $10, we want to invest $100. Let's see what happens. So you click on write and warning again, generate transaction. Yes, I'm sure, make transaction broadcast, we can check very quickly. In account, yes, incremented to 3. Now we have 3 blocks, all good. And when we go back to here, now let's check our equity in, let's say, altcoins, read, and there we go, we have 110,000 altcoins. Congratulations. We are now starting to have a lot of altcoins. And we can check also our equity in dollars, read, $110. And now just for fun, let's say that, the altcoins actually turn out to not be that good, or just, we want to get some money back. Well, let's try to sell some altcoins. That's the action we haven't tried yet. So sell altcoins. Now we need to input the investor address again. So that was already copied. And now let's see what number of altcoins we want to sell back. So let's see. Remember, we have 110,000 altcoins. Let's say we want to sell 50,000 altcoins, right? 50,000. Let's see what happens. I'm clicking on write. And now let's generate the transaction. yes, we are sure, make transaction. And there we go, the transaction has been broadcast to the network. All good, we can check that again. Well, here it is in block 4, just mined. And we can actually check the balance, all good. 4 transactions now, congratulations. And now, let's check out the equity in Atcoins to see if it was well updated. So let's click on equity in Atcoins. Let's read this. And there we go. 110,000 minus the 50,000 Atcoins that we just sold is indeed equal to 60,000 Atcoins. Perfect. Everything seems to be working very well. Let's just finish by getting the equity in USD, which should be equal to 60,000 divided by 1,000. That is $60. And indeed, $60. So guys, congratulations. We made this happen. We have a successful smart contract. So there we go. I think that's the end of the journey. I was so happy to make this course. I had a lot of fun. I hope you liked it too. So I guess I'll see you for our next courses. We have a very exciting year ahead of us in 2018, and we're truly excited to provide some great content about these new techs, AI, blockchain. We even want to combine the two. We'll do this for you. Thank you so much again for your support, and I'll see you very soon in some new course. Until then, enjoy blockchain.